first thing we need is a picture to build our frame around. So Kirby, the miniature horse, gets a photo shoot. Yeah, I kind of like that one. Now I can pull the photo into Fusion 360 and start designing the frame. I'm going to create a top and a bottom rail with stretchers on each side. And then I can print the picture. This is 13 by 19 watercolor photo paper. And then I can print the plans. Then I'll use some varnish to fix the ink on the paper so that it can't be smudged or scratched as easily. Now I can start building the frame. The wood that I'm using is mahogany. And the first part that I'm going to make is the stretcher. The thickness here is 3/16 of an inch. I need to make sure that it will bend to the curve in the design without breaking. Next I can get my top and bottom patterns ready. And figure out the dimensions of the material. Then I can cut a piece for the top and the bottom. And cut them to length. Next, I'm going to build a jig out of MDF. This will be used with the router to create the channels for clamping the picture. Here I'm finding the center of all the pieces so that I can keep everything aligned. Then I can attach a pattern to one of the rails and to the jig. Looks like I should have marked the center of that other board before I cut the ends of the top board off. Then I'll clamp the two boards together and attach them with screws. Next, I'll cut out where the router will track. These are the cleats that will hold the rail on the jig. Next, I'll get the rail positioned on the jig where it needs to be and put all the cleats on. I'm working with 3/4 material, and I want the picture to be in the center of that rail. So I need to set the router depth at 3/8 of an inch. That ring was restricting the depth of the router. It wouldn't go down as far as I needed it to, so I just took it off. Here I'm marking for a little rebate that I need to cut into the jig to make way for the tightening nut on the router. Then I can set the depth for that. And get that material out of the way. And then reset the depth so I can cut the actual rail. I don't need the pattern on the jig anymore, so I can take that off. And I can cut the first rail. And take that out. And put in the second rail. Now I'm going to use double-sided tape, put the two rails together, and cut them both at once. Make sure I have my center so I can keep everything aligned. And stick another pattern on. Then just follow the line. Then I need to make sure that the notches are going to fit the stretcher. And the sanding. Then I can take them apart and route a small chamfer on the edges. Here I'm just carving out those tight corners where the router bit can't reach. Next I'll get the picture cut to size. I don't want the white borders on the edges, and I need to trim just a little bit off the bottom to reduce the height. Here I'm measuring for the actual length of the stretcher, and also for the length of the slots where it goes into the paper. Here I'm taping them together so that I can cut them both at once. Then I can mark for the notches that will get cut into the ends that fit the rail. And here I'm cutting the notches. And the slot. Next I'll make the clamps that will hold the picture in the rail. Then I just need to round the back corners of the clamp so that it fits in that router slot. Yep, that fits. Then I can mark for all the screw locations. And pre-drill with a countersink bit. Then I can attach the clamp and cut off the excess material. And trim it flush with the router bit. Again with the sanding. And more sanding. Here I'm just doing one final check on the pieces to make sure that they're all working the way they're supposed to before I put the finish on. And the finish. Next I need to find a picture hanger. I think that'll work. And some little nails to hold it on. Just need to find the center again and attach it. Okay, time to put this thing together. First I'll clamp the top of the picture in. And then the bottom. Next I can put the first stretcher in. And the second one. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed the making of the unique picture frame with Kirby the miniature horse. See you on the next one.